Maybe that's a bit of advice is no matter if you have time or not in the passing of your parent, never trust them by what they're saying. Dig a little bit deeper because he's like, oh, I've cleaned up all my finances and I've cleaned up all the passwords to all the different accounts that he has. And to be honest, no.
Weird, sad, funny path, but we're here to help you laugh. It's the Dead Dads Podcast.
Losing your dad sucks, but talking about it doesn't have to.
We are not therapists professionally. We may like to think we are, but we are not.
We give really good advice, though, just not medically or therapeutically. Although if you do feel better after it, that's okay. You can still listen to us.
But we will bill you for that. We're also not doctors.
That's true. We're definitely not doctors. I once was a doctor, but then was immediately removed from doctor status.
You just had a lab coat on. Like, that's not a doctor.
That was the problem. Enjoy the next episode of Dead Dads. So Scott, we have a new guest today. Wonder if you can introduce him.
Yes, I absolutely can. Thank you very much, Roger. This is Blair French.
Hey Blair, welcome to Dead Dads.
Thanks for having me.
So I'll admit to knowing Blair in advance already. I feel like it's a secret sometimes, but I do. Blair and I work together. I would say, I don't want to age us actually. So I would say we worked together not yesterday, but a little while ago.
When we were a little younger.
We were a little younger. We still look the same, but we were a little younger.
So Blair, I have to start by asking, like, why would you decide to come on a show like this?
You know what? I saw Scott's post on LinkedIn, and it had been about 3 years since my dad had passed, and I felt like I had gone through some highs, some lows, some good times, some bad times, and I thought it was a great opportunity to share some of my experience because I think we don't talk about it. And that is really, I think I probably messaged you within 30 seconds of that post going up. I'm neurotic.
The infamous LinkedIn post.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm in. What do I need to do to get on this podcast? So.
Love it. So, one of the...
I played it cool.
You did.
I played it cool.
Yeah.
Love it.
Hard to get.
Yeah.
One of the kind of quirky things we like to do to start off all of our episodes to learn more about you is to ask kind of a, random question. So the question I want to know is, at the end of the day, let's say you've had a bit of a stressful day. What is your go-to comfort rewatch or listen, or what's the sort of consumption around media that you just have to do?
My outlet is my 8-year-old, and I get into the play mode, right? Because I love relearning and being reintroduced to so many things that I loved as a child through him. And it's a complete decompression, right? Sitting down and getting on the floor and playing Lego or reading a book with him. There's just every kind of pain point, every stress just kind of floats out the window for me.
Did you go through the dinosaur phase or the space phase or?
So it's the dragon phase right now, and 3D printed dragons with eggs, the collection that we have, and and I step on them and break them.
You're a 3D printer family.
No, we buy them. We buy them. We do not have one, or I should say grandma buys them. So,
love it.
But that's what it's like. The media, I feel like, is a little bit of a pit, right? To try to escape, whereas the view of the 8-year-old really does get you back to like those best times of your memories, right?
It's one of the best parts about having a kid is playing again. I mean, I was a huge Lego fan as a kid, and the fact that we can do that again, I'm like, sure. I mean, I'll buy some more Lego.
Yeah.
Sure, if you want it.
Yeah, totally. Adult Lego.
Yeah.
My son and I have gotten into model building. Like, remember the little plastic, the plastic army tanks, and drives my wife crazy because all of a sudden our house has army tanks in them. We're not really a military family, but we all of a sudden have tanks in the living room, tanks on the windowsill. So that's been fun. But then we started getting into these Japanese kind of almost like Transformers, but you put them together without glue, and it's it's super cool. It's fun.
Honestly, you guys have to do a play date because there's so many great toys.
I was like, I need to up my game.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to play date because then Ollie will be like, well, why are you slacking in the toy department?
Exactly. Yeah. So Blair, we want to learn as much about your dad as possible. Mm-hmm. Tell us all about him.
What was his full name?
Yeah. Well, he goes by Bob French or Robert French. He born and raised in Vancouver, actually worked in the cannery here in Vancouver all through school, graduated UBC, and he was a quintessential accountant. My mom went on a blind date. That's how they met. And she came home from that date and was like, I can't. I can't. Because my mom was a hippie flower child party girl. And she's like, he's so square. That's what she always used to describe my dad. And I'm like, that is pretty much what he was, square. And an accountant, very like frugal and fiscally responsible. But he also understood like diligence and hard work. And he hounded my mom. And finally, my mom's mom was like, just give him a chance, another chance. And he won. And he often did. He often won by perseverance and persistence.
He audited her.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, he had a spreadsheet, everything that she said.
This is what works for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
So he's always been that kind of stability, I would say, with regards to me growing up with him. But he always had that level of hard work. And I think he had a love for Vancouver and a love for BC. And then he moved out to Hope for a really great job and really kind of was a part owner of a big construction firm. So now I caveat with, yes, he was an accountant, but what he was known for was just out of the blue zingers. Right? We'd all be sitting. My mom's loud. I'm loud. My sister's loud. Try to compete with the three of us. But every once in a while, out of the blue, he would just crack a joke that was so unexpected. And I think that's what was really cool about my dad is those
Because of his sort of personality? Like
Yeah,
one of those...
Like you never saw it coming.
Yeah.
He let my mom be the show. He let my sister and I be the show because he was so proud of us. That's what his pride, like his joy was, seeing how successful or hopefully successful we would become. But every once in a while, just out of the blue, we'd be like, oh, you are alive still.
What's give us an example of a zinger?
It was, he just kind of sat there, listened, absorbed, and only really engaged and spoke when it felt right. He didn't need to be the center of attention.
Love that.
Was he a fix-it himself dad? Was he a call the professionals dad? Was he duct tape if it's necessary? What kind of
No, my dad never fixed anything.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad was
or attempted to fix anything?
No. He knew his limits and he knew his skill set.
Even though he owned a construction company.
Yeah, but he was the CFO.
Okay.
Right? He wasn't in there fixing the vehicles. Like he could. He never even taught us how to drive standard. Do you know what I mean? And at a construction firm back in the day, all the trucks were standard. But he was a call the professional. Mm-hmm. Like he knew his limits. He wasn't going to go like overstep and think he could like accomplish something where he's like, no, I don't know how to change the oil. And why would I? My time's better spent growing the company.
Right.
Oh, it's efficiency. There. Okay.
There
so
you
time versus money, right?
Yeah.
He would
I could teach you to drive standard, but that would mean I'd have less time for it. Yeah.
No,
he's doing the calculations.
He would have been dead way before now if he taught me how to drive standard, because I would have murdered him.
So how did he die?
So my dad went in for a routine GP check, and they did a stool, I guess.
And when was this?
This was just over 3 years ago. So it would have been 3 years in November.
But he just went in for the routine check.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they did, and I'm an oversharer, so I will provide as many details as we can. But he went in and the doctor was like, yeah, you know what? We should probably do a stool check. There was elevated levels of blood in the stool. And so they did a colonoscopy. And with that colonoscopy, they found 7 polyps. And really kind of rare, one of the polyps had melanoma. So that was the trigger. He immediately got into the cancer agency and started doing the full gambit of MRIs, CT scans, etc. And the first test came back and it was profusely throughout the whole body.
What age is he at this point, sorry?
He is 72.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was already throughout his body. And so we went into the kind of attempted treatment phase of it. But it was like only a small window between when he was diagnosed with melanoma from the colonoscopy to when it was already metastasized throughout the whole body. So
how do you think that short amount of time, that small window, impacted you? I mean, you must have been completely shocked, but also didn't really have a ton of time to not prepare, but like just to yeah.
Yeah. You know what? You actually, to be honest, it was almost a blessing because you don't start to overthink it. You kind of go into protect mode, and you try to go into what's best for my dad rather than what's best for me at that point. And I think the small window is what allows you to do that rather than it being that diagnosis phase being drawn out. And I would almost say like diagnosis phase, because it wasn't a stage 1. Right? Where you're like, oh, okay, how's that going to turn out? It's probably very, very curable. Whereas it was like, I don't think I ever got really the truth from my dad fully about how sick he was.
He was keeping it from you, you think?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like we heard stories afterwards because we grew up in a small town and my dad outside of Vancouver and Hope, BC. And so everyone knew my dad because a good portion of the town would have worked for the company that he was involved in. He was head of chamber, all of that. And one person came up to my mom and was like, yeah, he was complaining how he couldn't see out of his one eye, which clearly is a sign that most likely the tumors are now in the brain and affecting the optic nerve. He never shared that. I think he hid the amount of pain he was in because he was trying to protect my mom, my sister, and I from really knowing the true diagnosis.
Does that bother you that he kept it from you? If he kept it from you?
I think it would have bothered me more if it was curable, right? I think because I could have maybe supported a bit more. I think because in the end, we really had to come to the term. I don't think he ever came to the terms that he wouldn't be cured. I came to the terms that he wouldn't be cured based on the test results and the responses to some of the therapies that we tried. I think I would have been a bit more frustrated, right, if it was like a stage 1 or a stage 2 where there is a really good chance of survival, because I would have tried to maybe help more, right? I would have maybe tried to support him more, whereas because I didn't really know, I just did the best I could with the information I had.
And ultimately, how did he pass?
It's actually probably one of the best ways. And this is what he'll kill me for telling. Well, he'll be mad that I said this, but it was at home, and he didn't want to, like, it wasn't at the point where he could he was still managing, right? He was still doing well. He was still getting up, doing his routines, cleaning out the pool, going to the mailbox. And then one night, my mom actually woke up in the middle of the night crying. And she's like, oh, something's not right. She went back to sleep, and my dad is a routine man. So he's up for breakfast having his bowl of frosted shredded wheats, had to be frosted, every morning by 7. And my mom had slept in a bit, and it was 8, and he wasn't up. So my mom was like, uh-oh, this is not good. And so she went downstairs, and he had passed on the toilet. Which is not uncommon, I found out afterwards.
Elvis did it.
Yeah, well, I know, yeah. That's kind of nice to equate my dad to Elvis.
Nothing about him said Elvis to me up until this point.
He was also
exactly. I know.
He was also an accountant.
Yeah.
But you know what I found out is like you sit on the toilet and it's that pressure that kind of creates a little bit of a cardiac issue. And it was, my mom was like, he looked fine. And unfortunately, with a power outage, like nothing is ever easy for my family. Let's get that out of the way. Like there's always drama. There's always chaos when there's big events. And at that time, the power was out and the phones were down.
Oh, no.
So my mom's like, I can't even phone 911. I can't even so she got in her car and drove around the whole town to all of her friends' houses to find which ones had power. And she finally had to drive outside of the town.
He was still home on the toilet.
He was still home at the toilet because he was a bigger man.
He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, he's a bigger man, and there's no way my mom would have attempted to move him.
Ugh.
And
get him in the car.
Yeah, well, and he had clearly been there and had passed. So there was no reviving or anything. And so she found a house. They called, went back to the house. And I have to say the EMTs were fantastic. They went and got a blanket. They covered him. They brought him to his bed. They put him in the bed, got him looking comfortable, and then then the coroner and everyone.
Well, so they placed him in a more
appropriate way. And so I think that was nice for my mom, because to have him sitting there
Yeah.
while she was waiting for the coroner and the person that would take the body away, like,
yeah.
that's where she
kind of-
showers. She would have to shower with him on the toilet.
And you
It'd
said
be
she
weird.
woke up in the middle of the night crying, but didn't know why.
No,
so just sort
she
of.
just had an inkling that something wasn't right.
How did you find out?
So I knew something was wrong when people couldn't get a hold of me. And so they were trying my phone, and then I got a Facebook message from one of my mom's friends saying, "Hey, can you call your mom?" And that's when I had found out. So I was in Saskatoon, they were in Hope. So
And what stands out to you in that moment that you look back and kind of always remember of when you first heard your dad had died?
I think there was this sense of being numb, right? And I didn't, and I think what we have to also kind of mention is it was 18 months from diagnosis to when my dad passed.
So you'd spent some time
It was
considering these sort of scenarios. Maybe not this exact one.
No.
but something like this.
Yeah, and it was a process, right? Because he was doing immunotherapies. And like there was even the points where if, depending on where you're listening from, the town of Hope was stuck and surrounded by mudslides and landslides. All the highways in and out of the town were closed due to the weather conditions. And my dad was still doing medical treatments and immunotherapies. And so those were the things that I was thinking about, is like, were all these factors of him not being able to get treatment or get there in time? Like, could we have delayed it? Could we postponed it? I should have been there more. I thought I had more time. Those were the questions that were going through my head, and then I was like, oh my God, how am I I'm in Saskatoon. I need to get home. And I couldn't get home for almost a week just because of the weather conditions and flights. So I kind of went less into like, what am I feeling? What are my emotions? Because I remember the one thing my dad said to me, we went for a beer in Hope at a cool little local brewery, just my sister, my dad, and myself. And he said, the one thing I need you to do is take care of your mom. And I'm sitting there going, Jesus Christ, I can't even get home. How am I going to take care of my mom? Because my sister's in Calgary. She can't even get home right now. So she was actually able to get a last-minute flight into Abbotsford, get there within a day. It took me about 5-6 days to get home.
In those 5 or 6 days, was there anybody that showed up that you just never would have expected that supported you?
I think my family rallied around me. My husband was very supportive. My in-laws in Victoria were very supportive in their family. And so my brother-in-law out of Toronto by marriage also had his father pass away. He was a great resource as well. So it was more the inner circle, let's call it, more so than new faces or old friends. But I had great messages. My dad was a known person in the town. Like, people knew him. So like, out of the blue, I think, you get the nice messages and memories and shared and whatnot. So
I'm just putting myself in your shoes here. So you're not able to come and take care of your mom, and you're not able to actually step into this position that he had asked you to. But then at some point you are. So you arrive on the scene. Are you trying to catch up? What's the mentality of you coming into this scene hot, I guess, but you're now 5 days past when you'd ideally want? Are you starting the planning, clipboard in hand, or who's Blair when he arrives on the scene?
Yeah. I'm a little bit neurotic. I think the first thing is we kind of celebrated. We took the moment to actually allow ourselves to be in shock, to grieve, to remember some of the funny things. Like, I remember, like, during this process, my dad would be like, oh, my iPad's cracked. And my mom's like, well, just buy another fucking iPad, right? And he's like, well, what's the point? Because he's going to be dead in a couple months, right? Same with his bed. She's like, buy a new bed. He's like, well, what's the point? That's the morbidness, right? He's like, there's no point. He's like, I can last another couple months on this bed. Like, geez. And my mom's like, so we had moments where we like celebrated those and remembered. But then I went into my like my neurotic, okay, what's next steps? We need to go down to the funeral home. We need to figure out, are we going to appease him and not do a funeral or
that was
a
his
wake?
wishes?
He did not want anything. Do we not? Is that good for him if we do it? Is it better for us if we do it? What do we want to do?
What do you factor in when you think about, is it better for us?
Well, I factored in the fact that he was dead.
Yeah.
so it's like,
So
if
his
we-
opinion.
Yeah.
if we do it or we don't, really doesn't matter.
What's he gonna do?
Doesn't matter to him. What is he going to do from like whatever you believe in above? He's going to like strike me down.
And
I
when
don't
you say
think
funeral,
so.
are you talking about like he didn't want a religious funeral? He just didn't want any sort
He
of...
didn't want anything. He just wanted to go into the abyss and be that. And in the end, we were like, you know what? We're going to do something small. We just did it at our house. My husband is known for PowerPoint presentations. So he did an incredible PowerPoint, which we just had on the TV. My dad was a world traveler. I think that's one thing we missed talking about him. He loved to travel. And he traveled the world because even when I found out that he didn't have long to live, I said, what's your bucket list? What are we going to do? And so he was like, I don't care. He's like, I don't want to do anything. I've traveled the world. I've been everywhere that I want to go. I want to just enjoy my oasis of my house and backyard. I'm like, fair. So we had an incredible PowerPoint because there was like trips to Egypt, Asia, Australia, and we're talking like big trips. So it was kind of nice that everyone was able to gather around those photos. And it was just, it wasn't like a big thing where we invited a million people. It was really just some of his work colleagues that knew him, family that knew him. And I think it was good for all of us, even though he didn't want it.
Did you ever travel with him?
Yes. So we actually traveled quite a bit together. But our biggest trip was when I was done my first degree and moving into a second. Also, my dad didn't care what I did. He was like, you are my sister will agree with this, golden child. And he supported me no matter how crazy I was. And so I had done a trip with my mom to London and Paris when I was traveling the world. And I said to him, I want to do a trip with you. And one of the things, he had been to Africa, but hadn't seen all the big five. So we actually did a trip to Kenya and Tanzania together, a big safari. I'm big into mountains and climbing, and he surprised me with a hike. My dad didn't do it, let's preface that, to climb Kilimanjaro. And that was just a really kind of, one, I wish he would have told me so I could have trained. But yeah, it was such a great trip for us to have those memories. And I just remember one time we were sitting in the lodge drinking gin and tonics because gin and tonics supposedly help with the mosquitoes because we thought the gin had the quinine, the stuff for the malaria pills.
Yeah.
And it's not the gin, it's the tonic. And so we were drinking triple gins with a splash of tonic and absolutely got plastered. Right?
Yeah.
But we were like, we're saving ourselves.
But you didn't
from
notice
malaria.
the mosquitoes.
The elevation.
No, and we never got malaria. So really, it's like...
And we forgot to climb the mountain.
Yeah, no, that was prior to the mountain. And I did make it. And I think what was really cool is in my dad's bedroom, he had a blown up picture of myself on the top of Kilimanjaro. So, yeah, so he was always very, a world traveler and instilled that in us.
So Blair, how are you doing with your dad's passing now? It's been 3 years.
Yeah, for me, it took a long time because I think the first 6 months to the year was really supporting my mom. Funny enough, my mom, she didn't even know how to pump gas. My dad always had her car filled.
It's always a stereotypical question of like...
Yeah. My mom was a brilliant woman. She ran a successful clothing company. She was a teacher by trade, very, very successful. But my dad treated her like a princess. So she's like, I never had to pump gas. She's like, it was always just full. And I'm like, oh, that must be nice. So I think we had a lot to do. As much as my dad said he combined, and maybe that's a bit of advice, is no matter if you have time or not in the passing of your parent, never trust them. by what they're saying. Dig a little bit deeper, because he's like, oh, I've cleaned up all my finances and I've cleaned up all the passwords to all the different accounts that he has. And to be honest, no. And it was and I should have sat down with him and done a spreadsheet, because he was an old school accountant with paper and notes and password on this random piece of paper. So I didn't even know, we couldn't even go through his files because we didn't even know what we could throw out and what we had to save, because God knows it probably had some important password on it. So I think that's, for me, one of the first year was a bit of cleanup. And luckily my dad's pension transferred to my mom, and we were able to, like, all those things got tidied up pretty quickly. But personally, it took a huge toll on my mental health and my physical health, to the point where I dropped drastic weight, stopped eating, tried to go back to work, and work was my outlet. But what I realized was everything else was falling apart around me. Like, I could go to work, do my job, do it well, and succeed. But then I was taking it out on my family. I was taking it out on my mom. I was taking it out on my sister. And it wasn't until I kind of had this, and I was a partner at the company. So I had that added pressure to make sure the business was successful. And so I had this wake up call, and I said, I need to leave as partner and I need time. And luckily for me, the company LMNO and the other partners were so supportive in that. So I actually sold my partnership, stayed on in my current role, and I took a month off with my family, and we just lived and took care of myself and kind of figure out what it looked like next.
Why do you think you were driving yourself so hard? I don't know if that's ever, like, you sound like, I don't know what the expression, like the devil was at your back. Like, you're cognizant.
Yeah.
I'm pushing myself hard. I'm making myself, as a part of you asked, am I trying to bring him back? Or am I trying to
Prove something?
Prove something? Like, is there a part of you that's questioning what put me into this state? And thankfully, a state that you're no longer in and you pulled yourself out of.
Yeah.
That instigation.
Yeah. I think for me, my dad was my go-to. I think people would find it really weird that I talk to my parents almost daily, or did. I still talk to my mom probably. Like, if I don't call her for a couple of days, she's like, where were you? But with my dad, I called him for everything, every advice, not necessarily always looking for advice, but looking for his thoughts, because he was such a successful, supportive dad. I was very fortunate that way. I didn't have that anymore. So what I tried to do was fill it by perseverance and success, to say, I don't need him. I can do this on my own, and I will drive myself into my grave trying to achieve this success, where it was totally counterintuitive to what actually was happening. And I was holding it together. And that's the other thing, is like, I think family saw it, but work didn't, because I held it together so well at work. And then I think when I would get home, it would decompress.
And was there like a rock bottom moment, or, was there a big blow up of some sort, or did it?
I think for me is when I realized I hadn't eaten anything in probably like 48 hours. I was feeling, it was another control aspect, right? I was like, I don't need to eat. I'm good. I've got
things I've got to get done.
I got things I got to get done. I got to think about things. I got to keep moving. I just didn't look healthy, and I clearly wasn't happy. And I think that was a bit of a, I don't think everyone has that ability to have that wake up call themselves, right? And I wouldn't necessarily say it was rock bottom, but I clearly was in a, and at that point I was seeing a doctor. She's like, definitely burnout is a diagnosis we have for you. I think that's another thing, is people it's easier to fill the void than it is to try to deal with whatever emotions that you're dealing with, or pain. Yeah, 100%. So I was dealing with her. I was on antidepressants. And I think that's the other thing, is like, people have to be open to seeking help. But more importantly, you can't seek help unless you're open to talking about it. And I wasn't open to talking about it right away. It took me a little bit of time to get there. So
you said that your dad was your go-to. Is there anything right now that you can't go to anybody else except him, that you just wish he was here to help solve, or you could bounce off him? Or
yeah, like, to be honest, everything, right? Like, I miss that, right? I miss that connection that I had with him. Like,
Because they have to give you advice in
they
a way,
have
right?
to.
They
And
have to
I
answer the
wanted
phone.
it. And I think in a way it was to help me, to give me the strength to be, you know what, I am on the right path. Like, even with the move to Vancouver, right? It's a big financial burden to move to one of the most expensive cities in the world, from Saskatoon particularly. You know, I had done spreadsheets of going, financially, can we make this work?
Oh, he must have loved that.
Well, he wasn't alive at the time. Geez, Scott, rub it in.
He must have loved that.
Yeah.
He must have loved that.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. I was about to go up, but yes.
No, but it was so nice because we met with our accountant, because my husband and I were both incorporated. So we have an accountant, and he ran my numbers, and I was off by $4,000. And we're not talking small numbers. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck yeah. I was like, my dad would be proud. I did it on my own, but I still wish I could have like confirmed with him that I was. Those are the things that I miss, because whenever I had to make a big life decision, I always went to him.
Well, your parents are your life preserver in a lot of ways, and you don't always need that life preserver, but you want to know it's there. It's kind of like a smoke detector, or anything that's going to keep you alive.
And he was so pragmatic, right? Like, he was a matter of fact, right? He would just lay it out. There was no like sugarcoating. There was no like appeasing me, because he knew I was going to do it anyways, right? But he would just say, well, here's the pros and cons, and here's what you need to think about. Because if I wanted crazy advice, I'd go to my mom.
Yeah.
Right?
So how does grief show up for you now? How does it manifest?
I've kind of rethought grief in a way, is to manifest memories and moments that remind me of my dad.
What are some examples of those?
I think one thing is, so after my dad passed, my mom and I were talking, and she's like, God, every time I go in the backyard, there's these blue jays, and they're so annoying. They're just sitting on the roof of the gazebo, like cawing at me, and I'm like, well, Mom, you do realize what that bag of peanuts is in the garage. Dad would go out and feed these blue jays every day. I was like, and my parents like bickered. It was quite funny. I was like, and this is now his way of punishing you since his passing, to continue the bickering between the two of you. So what's really cool is that blue jay has become a symbol for my dad. And it was an interesting process for me, because I had, at the time, my son was 5 or just under 5. So he's at the stage where he understood what was going on. And he even brings up moments that he's sad about my dad passing. But what's really cool is this: whenever we see a blue jay, he goes, oh, it's Papa Bob. He's here with us. So it's changing those moments of where it's sad that he's not here, into something where it's more magical that he is here. And I think that's a way that I'm going to keep his legacy alive with my son, who doesn't have that connection with him to that level. So whenever we see a blue jay, it's like, there's Dad. He's watching. He's here.
I think that's the thing that I'm always interested in, is how people keep their dads around. Do you celebrate on his birthday? Do you find a thing that he loved and try to do that with your kids?
I don't choose specific days. Even this year, the day of his passing, I didn't even remember. And not in a bad way, but I was like, I have so many other positive things to remember him about. I don't need a day of mourning for him. I need days of remembering and celebration.
I've set myself a particular challenge, because I've told my kids that we can go to Dairy Queen, because that was his favorite dessert. And so they are like, hey, is it his anniversary of his death? But we want to get to Dairy Queen. I feel like even if I want to forget, I've now put myself into a scenario where it's no longer possible.
Can't go wrong with Dairy Queen, though.
How do you think losing your dad has taught you about being a parent?
I think it's to appreciate time. right? I have even, since the move to Vancouver, reduced my work week. So I only work 9 to 3, again, thanks to my job and them being supportive. So I try to be more present and more involved and more active. I take him to all his activities, soccer games. And I think it's to, as much as he frustrates me, my son, and drives me nuts, I think it's just being a lot more present. You can't get time back, right? That's probably my biggest regret with his passing is during that time of diagnosis to his passing, I should have made time. Like, I always found an excuse not to go back. Now, we were always on the phone and we were always in contact, but that's just a different experience in actually physically being there with him. That is literally my only regret of my whole life with my dad, is that 18 months that I didn't make a better effort to go home. And I think that will be, I'll carry that with me in a good way to say, hey, I'm going to make the effort for my son. I'm going to make the effort for my sister, for my mom. I'm going up to visit my mom this weekend just for the night with my son, because I haven't seen her enough. So I'm making the effort. And that's what we'll continue to do.
I want to ask, what about the first time that Ollie presents you with a spreadsheet on why you should buy him a new 3D dragon toy? When's that coming? What's that moment going to look like when he lays those numbers out for you and there's no...
Or will it be a PowerPoint?
I mean, it's hard to say. Yeah. He can amalgamate both of your strengths. You got a real winner on your hands here.
I wish that was the case. My kid is a live in the moment, crazy kid. I will be floored if he comes with a spreadsheet.
It's coming.
Okay, yeah.
I can feel it.
I'll hold you to that,
Yeah.
but I don't know if he's that kid. He's genius. Well, I think genius in other ways, but spreadsheets and accounting, we have a ways to go.
Blair, thanks so much for everything. I just want to ask you this one last question. If you could share with somebody who's, just even day one, they've just lost their dad, and they're just trying to kind of put themselves together, what's something that you could tell them maybe to make them feel, to reassure them or help feel a sense of what's coming?
I think what I would recommend is you need to find your person. You need to find the person that you can talk to, because that is going to be crucial to you getting through this period in your life. And you need that person to be really receptive to you just venting, talking at them, and listening. And I think if you can find that person that's going to allow you to do that, that's going to help you kind of navigate this roller coaster of emotions and events that are going to be happening. So that maybe would be the advice.
And good wine.
And good wine. Always good wine and a good spreadsheet.
I want to first say thanks. I want to say thanks for you for taking us inside your life, talking to us, getting to know everything about how your dad passed, his life. I've relearned the value of a good spreadsheet. I feel like that has been an intrinsic lesson of this.
He'll be proud.
He'll be so proud of that. And I've learned so much about the ability to challenge yourself. And I have, oddly, your husband in this now with PowerPoints. I feel like the next sponsor for this is either Microsoft Office or something like that. Because I feel like
feels natural.
That's where it's coming from. So thank you so much, Blair. Thank you so much for
Blair.
coming in and sharing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a weird, sad, funny path, but we're here to help you laugh. It's the day